and welcome to the Leaky Theory Room. We're dealing with intervals this week, and this is a revision video for the things we discussed at Friday's live lesson. First things first, your circle of fifths. We spoke about how important it is to know all the major keys all the way around the circle in order to do your intervals. So you don't need to know the minors, but all the majors around the outside of the circle need to be at your fingertips in order for you to successfully work with your intervals. So step number 1, size matters. First, determine the size of the interval. This should be something that with which you're familiar from your days doing intervals in grade 3. Remember, count the size first. So we'll use the very first one, and remember we count the unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7th, and I know that's a 7th, and the first thing I do is write down that it's a 7th. Make sense? Cool. Let's look at the next one. This is a 5th. This is a 3rd. Remember, you count the bottom note, and this one's also a 7th. You're halfway there. The second step is to remember that your lower note is your do, and you treat the lower note of the interval as your major tonic. This is why you need to know all 12 keys, because the lower note could be any of these notes. So let's look at that very first example. Our do is E flat. So I need to know that E flat major has 3 flats, and I need to know which flats those are. I know that they are B flat, E flat, and A flat. I look at the note that I have and I say, yep, there's just a normal D in E flat major. There's no D flat or anything. Therefore, this must be a major 7th. It's really that simple if you know all your keys. Always treat the bottom note as do. Here, I would treat the A as do in the second example. So I would work with 3 sharps in my key signature, and then G major for the next one. And then we'll talk about the last one in a second. All right, the next tip that I spoke about on Friday is you check if the top note is in the major key. If the top note of the interval fits into the major key, it's major or it's perfect. Let's look at the second example of the 5th, and let's have a look. I know it's a 5th, so I know that I'm not dealing with major and minor, but I'm dealing with perfect. 4ths, 5ths, unisons, and octaves. Unison, 4th, 5th, and octave can only be perfect or diminished or augmented. There's no major and minor step. So I know that this might be a perfect 5th, or it might be something else. If I have a look at that, I see that A is my do, and I know that A major has an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp. Right here, I have an E sharp. This does not fit into the key signature of A major. And that's when step 4 comes into play, which is semitones matter. That each of the intervals can either be bigger than a major or smaller than a major. Bigger than perfect or smaller than perfect. And that relationship is a semitonal relationship. So in A major, I know that it should be an E, just a normal E as part of the key. But now I've got an E sharp. And that's where this matters, because I know that it would have been perfect, but it's now sharp, and therefore the interval is slightly bigger, and now it's an augmented 5th. If it were flat on the top there, it would be diminished. And the same goes for the intervals that are minor and major. All those relationships are semitonal, going flatter and going sharper. Right, so this is an augmented 5th because the top note is raised by a semitone from perfect to augmented. Okay, that matters a lot. Let's look at this the third example. The bottom note is G, which makes this G, I think, in G major. And I say in G major, I have an F sharp. So this note on top should be a normal B, because there's no B flat or B sharp in the key signature of G major. Now I've got a bit of a problem, because I've got a B double flat on the top. So I know that B would have been normal. That would have been major third if that was just a normal B. If I go down a semitone, that would be a B flat. That would take me from major to minor. But I've got a double flat, so I've got to go down another semitone from minor to diminished. And that gives me my B double flat. So that's a diminished third, because major would have been B major, a B, sorry. Minor would have been a B flat, and then another flat, a double flat, takes me down to diminished. Now, step 5 is the one we didn't have a lot of time to talk about on Friday. But my question is, what do you do when you can't work with the given do? Let's look at this last example here. I can't work with G sharp. That frightens me because I'm like, there's no G sharp major. I have A flat major for sure, but I don't think of it as a G sharp. What do I do? So I'm going to give you a solution for this, and it's what I explained on Friday is the following. I take away, just for a minute, I take away the sharp at the bottom and I add it back again later. So if I ignore this sharp for a moment and I just treat this, I just put it up in the clouds and I say, hang on, I'm going to deal with you in a second. I now look at that as a normal G and an F sharp, and I realize that G major has an F sharp, therefore that would be a major 7th. But now I go, I need to add that sharp back now to see what that sharp has done to that major 7th. Well, I've put a sharp on the bottom note of the interval. So I use my hands normally, but I'll just draw a little line. If that's an example of the distance of a major 7th, and I've taken this note up by a semitone to sharp, what has it done to my interval? It's made it smaller. Therefore, I know that this is smaller than a major. It's a minor 7th. See what I've done? I took away the sharp, I dealt with a normal G, and then I added it back again once I had worked out my interval. My interval was major when it was just a normal G at the bottom. But then I had to realize that if I put a sharp on the bottom note, that note comes closer to that note. G sharp is half a step closer to F sharp than G is. So I know that it's a minor 7th. It's one step down on my little list over there. Semitone smaller. I hope that helps you. Please do your homework carefully this week. Please ask questions. Please do not use the memo if you have one at the back of your book. Use your own brain. Work it out. Have some fun. Once you work out the system and you do a lot of practice, you're going to see it's really quite simple, and it's kind of satisfying to be able to work out your intervals successfully. Good luck, and I will see you later this week. Bye.